Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker, Curtis Stevens, and Dave Ross. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. The website, arhq.com. At the very end of November, Warren Buffett's right-hand man passed away at the age of 99. Billionaire Charlie Munger was the one who inspired Buffett to invest in great companies at decent prices. He was also known for his quote-unquote Mungerisms.
Warren, if people weren't so often wrong, we wouldn't be so rich. If I can be optimistic when I'm nearly dead, surely the rest of you can handle a little inflation.
Charlie's big on lowering expectations.
Absolutely. That's the way I got married. My wife lowered her expectations. I think I've offended enough people.
Right.
Now, Munger preferred simple, understandable investments, saying complexity can often lead to confusion and increased risk. Can the same thing be said about retirement planning, or are there really just too many moving parts involved?
Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about it, you're talking about why are financial investments complex, and are those good choices? I think that's a great question. It's been my experience that the more complex things get, the more difficult it is for a consumer to understand really what they own. And ultimately, some of the times, the deck of cards becomes stacked against that investor. So it really goes back to education, I think, is important. So those of you that are listening, if there's one thing to write down, I would write this down. And this is the question that you want to ask about your financial accounts, is what is the investment methodology currently being used in your plan? So I'll ask people that, and a lot of times people will look back at me with kind of like deer in headlights look. Mm-hmm. They don't really understand what's being done for their investments, whether it's their 401k, maybe they're working with a financial professional. They don't really understand the plan, and I think that's when the problem can come in. It's not to say that complex problems can't be great solutions as long as somebody understands how they work and the pros and cons. But when you don't understand the methodology of your investment approach, I think that's really where a caution should go up. And so if you are listening and you don't understand what you own, I would say you should call our office, and our office can give you a second opinion. Again, we have a combined nearly 100 years of experience here today talking with you about your financial accounts and able to help kind of educate you on the pros and cons of what you have, and would you rather know now before something bad happens? A good example of that, I think, Dave, we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about segments for the show, is a couple of years ago, I would have people that would come into my office and they would tell me that, their financial product is going to guarantee them a 6%. I know 2 years ago when we looked at where the fixed rate environments were, that there was not investments that guaranteed 6%. Now, we flash forward here at the end of 2023, and there's things like money market accounts, there's bank CDs, there's fixed annuities that are in that 5 to 6% range. But again, I think people were confused on some of the products that are out there, and they didn't really understand, what that financial product was and really what 6% means. There's also some complex products that are out there that I think people, again, they need to, understand what are some of the negatives. And a lot of times it comes down to some of those, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. We also talked about the fact, years ago when we were invading Iraq, how some people believed in some ads that talked about investing in the Iraqi dinar, and they thought they were going to become ultra rich, but it was really, when you're talking about the currency markets, it's a very complex environment that's out there. So to me, some of the most complex products that are difficult to understand are things like variable annuities. It could be things like indexed annuities. It could be the private real estate investment trust. It could be like structured products. Those are just a couple of examples of some complex products that are out there. But Dave, when you're talking with people, what are you giving them as far as advice when they're looking at some of the complexity that we have in our environment and our world?
Well, what I would first say is that when working with me and with anybody here at the Retirement Guys Formula is you're going to need to be continuously educated and re-educated about exactly what it is you own. That's why I think it's so important that you have quarterly, semi-annually, more often than annual meetings so that as time goes by, you understand the difference and you understand more about exactly what you own. Because these annuities can be very complex, where people think they get a 6% increase on the cash value of that annuity every year, when in essence it's really a 6% increase in the purchasing power of that annuity. When you talk about how the income value versus the actual value of the annuity, that really opens some eyes, and people are starting to realize that maybe they don't understand what it is they own. So our job as professionals is to make sure they do understand how these things work and how they benefit from them.
Any pointers that you would give for clients when they're talking about the different complexities?
Well, guys, one of the things that I'm grateful to be able to do for people, and we all do it here. I'm going to use a big fancy financial term. We help people get unstuck. That's what we do. And financial complication is a big deal. And so I help people through mature simplicity at every level that I can. And everybody understands finances on a different level. But if you can make it simple, then you can increase a reduction of stress, right? You can have more consistency. You don't have to rely on me to make your financial decisions, because if you don't know where you're at on the map, you don't know how to get to where you want to be. So it's important that you own your finances and you work with somebody that's willing to hold you by the hand and walk you through it as many times as you need to understand it.
It's a very complicated thing. It can be daunting, the concept of retirement, making sure that all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. It's something that you may not feel like you're equipped to do it alone. The good news is you don't have to do it alone. The team at America's Retirement Headquarters, just by the videos on YouTube, the podcast, the show itself, when you come into the office, they pride themselves on educating you and empowering you to help you make the best decisions going forward with your retirement. Maybe you don't necessarily want to know all the finer details. You just want to make sure that, the money is going to be there and you're going to be okay when it comes time to retire. Maybe you do want to know more. Either way, whatever you're most comfortable with, they will walk you through the process and they will make it as easy to understand as possible. Again, kind of like Charlie Munger, boiling it down. Maybe not quite the wit. No offense, guys. He was definitely a witty guy, but making it as simple to understand for you. But it all starts. You take that first step. 419-794-3030, or go to the website as well, arhq.com.